Hi guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. Today we're going to be looking at the Super Console X Pro. This is a tiny little console that apparently smoothly runs 80 plus emulators, including PSP, PS1, N64, Dreamcast, Neo Geo, and many more. Now this is the full version that includes apparently 50,000 games included on the SD card. Okay, sounds interesting. Let's get stuck into it. Okay guys, so Super Console X Pro, this is actually a sort of sequel of sorts. It's obviously the second version of it. I think this one has a slightly faster processor, I believe. I'll leave some of the stats on the screen to the console, but it comes with the console, SD card, as you can see, game controller, HDMI cable, power adapter. This is the UK version, so it comes complete with a UK 3-pin plug. And yeah, so let's get stuck into opening the box. I got this one from Amazon, but I guess you can probably order it from AliExpress and amongst others. And the prices range wildly, from sort of £60 to well over £100, just depending on what version you would like. So this is the actual box. We'll maybe just take the controllers out first. There's two controllers. They're sort of PlayStation style controllers. And they're really light. I mean, you can see they're really light, but they feel okay. I mean, the buttons and all that are nice and clicky. We even have the sort of R3 and L3 buttons, but they are really light, and they're just basically cheap plastic, but they're functional, I guess. The only problem is they take two AAA batteries. It comes with I think this must be a Bluetooth dongle that you put into the side of the console, and it picks it up, which is fine, I guess. It's functional. I'm sure you could probably connect an 8-bit controller or something as well with it, which we'll find out. So that's them. Two controllers. Not really much else in the box. There's just a couple of instruction manuals, which I'm not really going to bother going through it. And we'll look at the main box. That includes, okay, what we've got here. We've got as I said, we've got the UK 3-pin plug adapter. We got a remote control. This is for the Android part. There's sort of two sections to it. There's an Android section where you can sort of boot up and use it as an Android TV box. This is to add more controllers to it, sort of USB controller sticky thing, which is quite cool. We've got an HDMI cable, which is, again, that's really cool. And we got the console itself. It comes nicely wrapped. You see, the console itself is super tiny, and it's really cool. Still got the protector of it. This is not a functional button, it's really just a cheap plasticky box with a sort of circuit board in it, and it runs off Linux, I believe. And see, we've got some connection here. We've got an AV out, I guess there's got a power adapter. This is the on-off switch here, which feels a bit worrying right enough, this little thing. Get an HDMI connection and an Ethernet connection, which is unusual. Don't really see that very often on these consoles. And on the side you've got your memory card. Now this one comes with the 256GB memory card included. It's usually a really crappy memory card that they put in with it, right enough, so might be worth sort of replacing that with a really decent one. And you got your two USB sort of sticks here to put the controller things into. And that's pretty much it. You can see it's the Super Console, model number X Pro. Not really much to talk about. There's obviously plenty of sort of air here to sort of help keep the unit cool, which is really interesting. And that's really it. Look at the size of it is absolutely tiny, and it's as light as a feather. So it'll be interesting to see how this runs. So without further ado, guys, let's get this kicked onto the TV and we will see how it runs. So guys, here we are. We've got the Super Console X Pro booting up. It's capable of doing 4K, it says, but this is really just on a 1080p monitor. So this is powered by EliteColeyBoy, and this is seen on pretty much most handheld emulation sort of devices at the moment, and it's actually really good. It's very simple, it makes things a lot easier. This is a cool sort of intro sequence that's added to the console. You can actually turn it on and off. There is an option there to do that. So once that's passed, it sort of boots into the emulation station and loads up all your configs and game files and stuff. It only takes a few sort of seconds to actually fully complete. So here we go, we sort of boot into the main screen, and I'll go straight to the all games part, and it does state here that we have 50,036 games installed on this memory card, and there's actually room to install even more, but in reality I think it's probably a good bit less than that. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of games on here, but if you sort of click into all the games, you can see there is a bit of repetition, and sort of jump through the files here. The ones that are starred are all your favourite files. If you look here, look, there's a lot of different repetition, the same titles and stuff on different formats, same games that are good. Just look, there's 2 games that are exactly the same for some reason. I don't really know why. There is quite a lot of that, but you can see there is still a ridiculous amount of games on here. So it's very unlikely you're ever going to get to play them all through. And you see, just whipping through them all, you've got Amiga games, over 1,000 of them. There's Amiga set CD32 games included in these files, rather than being a folder on its own. A1200 files, Amstrad, nearly 2,000 games, arcade games, ridiculous amount. So all your Atari 2600, 5200, 7800, 800 even. There's 5,000 games here. I wasn't really aware of the Atari 800. Some of these games are slightly trickier to actually play due to the fact that it needs a keyboard, but there is an on-screen keyboard you can actually utilise. Atari Lynx games, about 76 games, that sounds like almost all of them. Atari ST games, crazy amount of games there. Atomiswave, which is a sort of Sega arcade sort of titles. Most of them are really Japan only games, but there's some cool titles there. Commodore 64 games, there's nearly 5,000 there. I mean, that's probably not the full catalogue of Commodore 64 games, but it's still a ridiculous amount of games. Dreamcast games, there's not a lot of them. I think generally because the emulation is a bit up and down. But there are some ones that play quite well and some that not, so it's a bit up and down. Sort of Final Burn Neo, they're arcade games again. Famicom Disk System, Game & Watch, not really sure why you'd want this on here, but it sits here if you really want to play them. Game Gear games, 263, Game Boy, Gameboy Advance, Game Boy Color, Sega Genesis, Intellivision, MAME, arcade games again, Sega Master System. Again, there's another folder for Sega Genesis for some reason. I think it's just different file formats, but yeah, they're quite cool. MSX2, another sort of computer system. Nintendo 64. Much like the Dreamcast, some games play better than others. Sort of discovered while playing these that there's a certain emulator that actually plays them better rather than the one that's automatically added here. So I'll go through that once I get to the Nintendo 64. Naomi, Sega Naomi, another arcade system. Nintendo DS, Neo Geo systems here. NES, ridiculous amount again. Hacks for the NES, there's some funny titles in here that's worth having a look at. Neo Geo Pocket, the colour version. Odyssey 2. Again, this one's a bit like the Atari 800. The keyboard aspect can be a bit of a pain to try and get the game started, and the games are a bit sort of sensitive to play. Streets of Rage knockoffs. TurboGrafx, the CD version. Pokemon Mini, pointless. Ports, again, these are just sort of emulated ports, or straight ports from like Doom, for example, the original Doom sort of titles here. Quite cool, and they all play really well. PSP, much like Dreamcast and N64, there's 22 games if you sort of jump in, and some play really well. And again, there's not a lot of titles here. There's obviously the ones that play particularly well. There's a lot of titles that are not here that be interesting to see if they actually work well. PlayStation. There's not actually that many titles here considering how many sort of PlayStation games there are, but they all play quite well. Sega 32X, 37 games. Sega CD, only 2 games, funny enough. Final Fight CD, Sonic CD, and they play okay. SG1000, that's quite an interesting inclusion. Never heard that one, never played any of them. Super Nintendo, TurboGrafx, Vextrek, another strange edition, which is a bit strange, but it's here. Another Virtual Boy, bizarre red screen playing the games. odd, but yeah, it's here. Wonderswan and Wonderswan Colour. Be interesting to get stuck into them. Sharp X6800. Not really aware of that one, but they're here. Spectrum Games, 5,000 of them, and that's it. So just before we get started, I want to go through some of the tips. You can actually go into select here, and you can sort of choose different options and how to boot and where to start from RetroArch, for example. So RetroArch is actually running in the background of more games. I'll show you how to access that soon. And there's options to scrape different things, add the Wi-Fi, which is fine. Different sound selections. There are all sorts of different options here, but if you're not comfortable with that, you can just go straight to the games. But if we sort of choose Amiga, for example, there's a ridiculous amount of games, but if you press the select, you can do search your games here. And if you go down to advanced options, I found that a lot of the settings are all set to automatic, and the emulators usually play the best one, but not always. Now this is something I've set myself. In the shader set, usually it's set to automatic for every system, but I feel that the emulation looks a bit too, maybe it's realistic and looks a little bit blurry, but I like to see the games a little bit sharp, and sort of choosing this, it makes the sort of graphics pop out a lot more and look a lot sharper. So if you sort of click here, it's usually set to automatic, which is at the top, but I usually choose this one of these options, and it makes it look a lot better. Again, you can choose anything you like here and have a bit of experimentation. If you like to see scan lines, that option's there as well. And there's other options you can do to sort of mess about. And it's usually fine. If you're sort of quite happily messing about that, then all the things sort of work quite well messing about. But yeah, without further ado, let's have a quick play of some games. Guys, just another quick tip before I start. The sort of changing games here in the menus that makes an awful, really annoying sound. So I actually turned it off. You can mess about with the sounds here. Where is it? So enable navigation sound. So if you turn this off, it will get rid of it. But if I turn it back on, I'll show you what I mean. And it's bloody annoying. So usually when you're scrolling down here, it makes a noise every time you change it, and it sort of gets on your nerves after a little while. So the best thing to do after is just turn it off so that it doesn't actually annoy you, and it does make some difference. And that's it. That's pressing the start in the menu there, and it basically takes it in. So I'm using the actual controller out with the box, and it's okay. I mean, I found it's generally all right. It sometimes sticks a little bit, and it's not the most responsive, but it's generally all right. I mean, it is cheap plastic rubbish, but it's generally, you can plug in your own sort of controllers, like an Xbox controller. I've got an 8-bit do controller that works absolutely fine with it, so you can really do what you like and as you please there. But yeah, without further ado, let's get stuck into some games. Okay guys, first game we're going to look at is Alien Breed on Amiga. So you generally just press the B button to get started. Like I say, some games do take a little bit longer to load than others. And sometimes it would appear that the games aren't working, but you just need a little bit of patience. Most games start immediately, but some of the sort of computers, emulators take a little bit longer to load. Like some Amiga games, C64 games, they do tend to take a little bit longer. But I think I've obviously not tried all 50,000 games yet, but I've tried a good handful, and most games have worked right at the back. So we're definitely, it's a good sign. I've seen a lot of reviews where some games didn't work, but I've seen mostly positive things so far. So this is Alien Breed, a very renowned sort of classic on the Amiga. It's obviously very heavily inspired from the Alien movies. See a sort of top-down style game. And it is very, very cool. And one of the best things about the controller, both the analog sort of stick and the D-pad work, so you can choose either or. It doesn't really make much difference what you choose. You can actually make the screen slightly bigger, custom fit to what you would prefer. But most games sort of they fit the screen. Other games, they have the sort of bezels around the sides, you can see. It really is your own preference, what you want to see. You can see it's very heavily inspired by the Alien movies with these xenomorphs. Whoa, whoa, I'm not very good at this, am I? The speech samples are brilliant, aren't they? Oh, I'm dead. There you get the gist. This is a really good game. So to sort of go, you can actually access the RetroArch main screen by clicking on the L3 button and the R3 button, and it takes you to here. You can sort of mess about with the sort of configurations and whatnot in here, and mess about with the controls. Sometimes the controller doesn't recognise or set up, so you can mess about with the settings in here. You can also mess about with the sort of video. If you want to change the sort of scaling, you can go in here and mess about it. General, not that one. Scaling generally sticks to a custom that's been sort of preloaded to the device, but you can go in here and choose whatever you want. Sometimes core provided, it sort of helps and makes the screen a little bit bigger, but it varies depending on what game you're actually playing. It'll become more apparent when we play some of the other things, like the Gameboy Advance, for instance, later on in the Game Boy games. There's lots of things you can do here. You want to save that, you can go into configuration file. Oh man, sorry, configuration file, save current configuration, for example, and that will save. Hopefully, it will be there by default when you come in next time. So you can either quit from here or just go back to the game by clicking on the same buttons again. You can quit the game that way as well, but the quickest way is probably holding down select and start twice, and then that will go straight back to the game selection screen. We'll maybe have another game of Speedball 2. This is a Amiga CD32 game. You can see that the list of games is just insane, and it just goes on and on and on. You can press the Y button, that sort of takes you to random ones all over the place. And you can see there's absolutely tons and tons of games that have the sort of little box art. Some of them actually have videos as well, but if a lot of them don't, you probably need to scrape most of them from the web if you want. It's really up to you. Let's see, let's play Speedball. So obviously Amiga is totally running on for this one as well, Speedball 2. This is the CD32 version, which is probably one of the best versions out there. It's a slightly more colourful version of the original Amiga and Atari ST versions. So one of the best things about this is if you don't want to mess about with kickstarts and all the rest of it and BIOS files, then this is playable right from the off without having to do any sort of messing about and setting your ROMs and all sorts, which some people quite enjoy doing. I do enjoy doing it as well, but sometimes it can be massively frustrating trying to get games to actually work. If you don't really know what you're doing, then it's just a nightmare. Like Amiga, for example, is probably one of the toughest because you need all those Kickstart original files. You need obviously decent ROMs as well, and generally it can be just an absolute nightmare to play. So let's go quickly straight to the game. Again, if you can press the select button, it brings up the on-screen keyboard. Some games you do need to utilise that to actually make progress. Just something to be sort of wary of. Atari ST is one of them that you really need to know what you're doing and press the right button to progress through games. But this is a fantastic game. It plays brilliant on here, it zips along at a great pace. And you see it's just that little bit more colourful than the sort of other games like the Amiga Drive, Mega Drive version, for example. Just has that slightly extra bit of colour in it. I think it looks fantastic. And it's quite tricky right enough. I think the controller is not the best controller. I think you're probably better off trying to find a decent controller if you were serious about playing games on this. It's functional at best, but whoa. Definitely had the C64 version of this, and this is what I played most of the time, which is a really good version in itself, but I don't think anything can beat the Amiga versions, can they? Yay! We scored. Anyway, that's the Amiga. Let's move on to another format. Again, you just press the start and select together twice, and it takes you back to the main screen. So let's move on. Obviously, you get Commodore Amiga 812. I'm not going to play any games, it's just more of this, more Amiga games. Amstrad, let's have a quick bash at the Amstrad just to see or sort of portray the loading times. Now, obviously, this is another computer, it just kicks up and loads itself from the basic screen. And the loading times for Amstrad is quite impressive. But the emulation is particularly cool too. So back in the day, your choices, especially in the UK, was Amstrad, Spectrum, or Commodore 64. You really just had a choice. I think generally they were quite popular in the UK because of the price of games. I mean, it was quite easy to pick up games for like £2-3, which was insane. You could pick up games using your pocket money that week. The sort of reason maybe why NES or Master System wasn't as popular was the price of games. It just wasn't attractive to parents or kids, I guess, growing up. Whereas these games, dirt cheap, you could pick up a few every month, easy peasy. Do some extra chores about the house and afford a game that week. Not that I'm saying I've ever done that, you know. It's a great game. I'm not sure this is the best version of the game, but it's nice. It has that kind of red tinge to the game, which is probably slightly different from the other versions of it. But yeah, it's still got that great soundtrack that's renowned with the game. Fantastic. Now you see that Amstrad works really well. Again, you can press the select button, it brings up the on-screen keyboard if you need it for certain games, or just press them twice and go back to the main screen. So next, okay, we've got arcade. You can see there's absolute tons and tons of games here. Now, a sort of little sort of point to here is be careful. Some of the games aren't really compatible. By automatic, it goes to use the sort of final Neo Burn core, and then you can change that if you press the start button. Sorry, not the start button. If you go in here, press select button, you can go to the advanced system option. You can choose. You can see by default it chooses the Final Burn Neo emulator. But some of the games aren't compatible with this one. It might be actually better changing this to automatic or MAME. Now, some of the games prefer the MAME emulator, so you've got the choices in here. And so definitely something to note. I've come across a couple of games that didn't work, and it's only because they've got the wrong sort of core chosen here. Definitely something to keep an eye on. If it doesn't work, so I'd choose one of the other cores and then give it a go. But let's have a go at Thunder Hoop. This is one of the games that's going to be on the Gaelco arcade cart at the end of the year on Evercade. And it's one of these games I actually only discovered recently, didn't know anything about it, and it's a really cool game. It also kind of gives me Amiga vibes when I'm playing it. It just kind of looks a bit Amiga-like. Sounds a bit like it, but it's clearly an arcadey sort of style game. I think it's actually really good. Quite tricky though. I mean, it's clear to see it's a bit jumpy, shooty, platformy game. And it does get quite tricky because a lot of the bad guys sort of appear out of nowhere. Well, you're sort of there, it just jumped there, and that can make it a wee bit frustrating. Still tricky, fantastic game though. Ooh. Oh, it's got these tricky sort of shooting and platform bits at the same time. But fantastic game. Oh, see, it's quite easy to die, you get a bit frustrated. You can see why I sort of changed the options screen. If you... I'll go back out of this again. Make sure it's set to that, that sort of... I'll show you. So by default, a lot of the games look quite blurry because they're set to automatic, but I definitely think it's worth having this set up to make the graphics that bit sharper. I've found a massive difference by actually using that. Now let's have a look at Ninja Baseball Batman. One of these games that does sometimes struggle in emulators. And on here it's not bad, it does play well, but sort of usual frame rate issues. It's also a good base to sort of try some of these harder to emulate games. Have a little bit of renowned slowdown. That's just one crazy title. And it looks fantastic. It does actually play quite well. Occasionally it can slow down a little bit, but it's still fantastic play. I don't think it affects the game too much. It's such a quirky, crazy little game. It is fun. It is definitely fun. One, if you've not played it before, you should definitely have a look. Pick it up, have a little shot. Very quirky. Very different to anything else out there, that's for sure. So it's actually playing quite well on here. I've played a few devices recently on this and it's been a bit hit and miss. But on this Super Console X Pro it's fantastic. Anyway, you get the gist, let's sort of move on guys. Excellent little game. Now not everything runs perfect, there are a few games that don't run particularly great, but for the best part, a lot of the games I've played have been terrific. So we've got Atari, let's have a quick bash at River Raid. Another classic Atari game. Certainly one of my sort of favourite Atari games. You can see it looks amazing using the sharp sort of... Oh, I don't play very well, do I? So I was just figuring out what button to use there. I think the default controller on this is just a little bit stiff. I found it better with the 8-bit Do controller rather than the standard one. Again, you can use the analog sticks on this, it does work. But anybody that ever used the original Atari joystick, that could be extremely stiff as well. And not the most fun experience. Fantastic game, I mean this game's still fantastic to play to this day, which is amazing. Whoa. Anyway, you get the gist guys, absolutely fantastic little game. Let's jump out again. And the device sort of jumps back and forth between the games really quickly. So if you press left and right you can just go through the systems like that, or you can go back to the main page and go through this way. So we've got Atari 5200 game, which we bypassed this. We generally only ever had an Atari 2600. The other two consoles never really made any massive way in the UK. I don't really remember them much. But this is obviously Pitfall's a smashing game, quite tricky. Whoa. But great little game. I'd definitely love to see an Activision collection on the other Cade. Obviously I've just played 2 Activision games, 2 of them would be fantastic. Maybe one day we'll see it, maybe not. It'd be great though if it was. Ooh, I missed. Oh, I've missed again, haven't I? Great little game. I know the graphically obviously not the greatest looking game, but it still plays really well. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's all about the gameplay. Graphics sometimes take a second place for quality games. Guys, if you don't like tinkering with games, you just want something to plug and play, this is right up your street, this little thing. This is Atari 7800, 7800, whatever way you want to call it. This is pole position 2. I did own the original pole position game on Atari, and that was quite good fun. This is really good as well because it actually has, this is like the qualifying lap you do, and then you sort of do the race with other competitors, which is really quite good. So obviously these sort of titles are all very easy to emulate, they're not that difficult at all. But also when you get to sort of the harder to emulate machines, which we'll see further on in the video, sometimes it does tend to struggle a little bit. It really does depend what you want to do with this machine. For me, I'm quite intrigued by looking at a lot of the computer games. So Amiga, Commodore 64, Spectrum, I'm absolutely loving to play all of these sort of games. And that's what I'm sort of intrigued in, rather than Dreamcast, PSP and that. Even though I will play them, it's probably more exciting for me to actually play all these computer game stuff, a lot of which I never really would get a chance to play. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, Atari 800. Now this one is probably one of the ones I struggled to actually play. Now the games do run, if I sort of press Souls right, the games actually do run well, but I couldn't get the controller to actually work. I guess, as you can see, the controller that this had was a bit peculiar. So it probably just a matter of trying to configure it in the RetroArch settings somewhere. You see, the game does actually run fine and it goes okay, but let's say none of the controls were working for me. So it's all about trying to sort of change the controller settings to fix you. But it does actually run, trust me, it does work, as you can see. So, Atari Lynx. This emulates okay, it's just I think Atari Lynx games were slightly blocky, and when you're sort of blowing them up to the bigger screen, it kind of makes them look even worse. But this is an excellent game that was on the Atari Lynx Blue Lightning, which is also on the Arcade Atari Lynx Collection 2, I think. And you can see this is pretty much just the same, it emulates fantastic. No slowdown, great little game. Gets very hard right enough, but excellent game. So you can see it's obviously just a little bit blocky, but for the best part it plays exactly as it should. It's fantastic. As you see, there's the option to change the screen to whichever way you want, which is kind of funny. It's not like I'm going to do that on a big TV, not a chance. You can see, terrific. I'm pretty sure there's 75, 76 games on here. That's, for me, I think that's most of the games on the Atari Lynx. So Atari ST, Kickoff 2. So this is one of the ones that you need to utilise the keyboard to actually make this thing run, otherwise you're just going to be sitting staring at the screen forever. So you do press, it's L2 sorry, that brings up this screen, and you need to press obviously the second page to find the enter button, or another button, I guess, any button will do. Yeah, so in this instance, in this ROM, it's actually the space bar you need to press. I'm not sure how that differs or anything from other games, but again, you would have the appearance that it's not going to work, but you need to utilise this to actually get the games loading. So yeah, a little bit of a pain, but it does work. You may have the impression that the games are not working, and some games do take a little bit longer to load, so it's generally all about having a little bit of patience and waiting. So here the sort of game kicks up, it eventually gets there, but yeah, this is probably one of the other slower emulators. It takes a little while to load the game. So it's probably not particularly the most amazing version of Kickoff 2, but if anyone's ever played this, you know, it's not the easiest game to sort of play. The fact that the ball doesn't sort of stick to your feet, it makes it a tricky game, but there is an art to it, and it does take a little bit of getting used to, but you can actually become pretty handy at this and pretty good. I'm pretty sure I had a Kickoff game on the Commodore 64, and it wasn't the greatest football game, but it was alright. And you get the gist, at least the Atari ST games actually work. Let's sort of move on out of here to that. So that's Atomiswave, which is the sort of Sega arcade sort of games. Not really sure which one we'll maybe try. Dolphin Blues generally it plays okay, but it's like a sort of Metal Slug game, and it plays quite well. These are similar; they play quite well. But let's have a look at Rumblefish. It's a kind of beat 'em up game. There is some slowdown in some of these games. I think Dolphin Blue does actually play quite well, but it's still, you can hear the sort of music has a little bit of slowdown and stuttering. Again, you can see the bezels at the side of these screens, the Atomiswave bezels here. They you can actually take them away if you don't want them. I sort of leave them in because they actually look quite cool, and it gives you an idea what you're actually playing.
Welcome. How to play.
I'll just jump past that. We're going to wing it. You can see there's a little bit of cutting up with the sort of music. And that's pretty much typical for the Atomiswave games. Generally they actually play alright, you can get away with it.
Round 1. Fight!
They play okay, just a wee bit slow, but it's generally alright. Rather peculiar sort of beat 'em up. See, a lot of these games are, I'm pretty sure they're Japanese games. You can generally actually look alright, play okay. Sort of characters are a little bit stiff. Whoa. Oh no, that's not good. Oh, I think I'm going to get beat here. Oh, I'm beat. It plays pretty well, doesn't it? It does play quite well. So I'm not going to jump into any other games here. They all kind of sound and play similar. I don't recall any of them hitting the UK, so they're all kind of Japanese style. So this is Final Neo Burn, which are arcade games. There are all sorts of cool games in here. So all the renowned titles. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play this game, which is World Rally. This is another Gaelco game that's going to appear on Evercade Gaelco Arcade at the end of the year. And it's one of those ones again I never heard of, never played, but it is a really decent game. And it runs exceptionally well on here. It's from 1993. So Gaelco was a kind of Spanish company. They didn't release too many sort of arcade games, but the ones that I've seen so far have been all excellent quality. So let's sort of jump in. We'll just do the first sort of course and get an idea of how cool this little game is. Yep. You can see it fills the entire sort of screen here, which is really cool. Oops. So it's very easy to crash. I guess that's all part of the fun, isn't it? It's the controller, honestly, it's not me. That's a fantastic little game though. I think I'm going to fail this one, aren't I? I think each sort of track has a time limit of 1 minute, which I think I've just failed by quite some distance. Anyways, really top game. I really quite enjoy this one. So again, there's absolutely tons and tons of arcade games here, and it's the mind boggles. If you're into your arcade games, then you can just look at. There's all sorts of classics here: Ghouls and Ghosts, Final Fight. Oh wow! I mean, hours and hours of fun if you love your arcadey titles. Anything and everything you can think of. I don't think every single game is on here, right enough, but I mean, most of the big hitters are. And if you don't have the game you want, you can maybe add your own. If you've got your own ROMs, you can actually add your own by sort of putting the memory card into a computer, add your ROMs, it's into your ROM folder. It's very easy to do. The instruction manual's there in the box that can help you. You can also connect wirelessly via your computer if you want. If you can do it that way, it's a lot easier, no problem. So let's move on. Let's come out here. So we've got the Famicom disk system. Don't really know a heck of a lot about it. So I'm not really going to jump into too many of these games. I mean, you get the point. I'm not really going to do this either. If you can look at the screenshots on the right, it's very strange. I mean, I played one of them and they work, but it looks weird. It's like a blown up version of playing a Game & Watch game, and it's bizarre. But they do work. So Game Gear, I think we'll jump in to play one of the games. Let's try. Yeah, let's see if we can maybe jump to Sonic the Hedgehog. And see, there's absolutely tons of games here. You can quickly search, but you can hold down the button and it'll drag through quite quickly. Well, Sonic 2. I did have a Game Gear back in the day, but it was one of those ones with a battery eater, so as you can see, I love the bezels on this. It's fantastic the way it has the Game Gear there. And it looks and sounds fantastic. I'm not sure this is the best way of playing Game Gear games. Sort of the style of it wasn't really meant for a big screen. But this was still a fantastic Sonic game. You can see it really just feels like you're playing on a Game Gear. Except obviously the graphics are slightly better because I've sort of put the settings to sharp. But you think, wow, cool little game, isn't it? Yeah, I think all my family used to play this back in the day. But it was always plugged into the mains, which was kind of defeated the purpose of the Game Gear, didn't it? You know, where you could afford that many batteries that it plugged through. But yeah, absolutely smashing. I do like the way it's emulated here. Okay, next we're Game Boy. Yeah, let's have a bash at Tetris. It just looks really bizarre on the big screen, but it's cool. It is still very cool. This sort of brings me to a point that I'd like to see. By standard, you should see the screen is absolutely tiny for some reason, which I don't really know why. So if you want to fix that, you can access this through the RetroArch with clicking in L3 and R3 buttons. It'll take you to RetroArch. So if you press the A button to go back, go down to settings and then go to video and then scaling, and then just change the aspect ratio to core provided, and it sort of blows it up a little bit fuller. Press the buttons again, you can see it fills the actual screen. We're still having the bezels at the side, which it's a lot better. I don't know why it's defaulted to the way it is. You see that it looks fantastic, this, and sounds just exactly as it used to, but it's just slightly better, obviously, rather than the green screen. And I forgot how amazingly addictive this game was. Fantastic little game, eh? Yeah, I definitely spent many hours playing this game. Time wasted, but time well wasted, that's for sure. It's one of these games that you probably spent time actually dreaming about. It was that addictive. It's like one of these bust a move games. You always dreamt about where to put the shapes and the sort of coloured bubbles. Fantastic. Anyway, I could sit and play this for hours, but yeah, let's move on. And the same that you probably need to do the same sort of thing with Game Boy Advance games as well. They sort of don't seem to fill the screen. So, but you can just fix that quickly. You need to remember to save your configurations as well. Forgot to say that. If you do change something, I don't really know why it does this. The default setting is wrong, so it seems a bit strange. So again, just go in to your settings, video. Oh no, not that one. Scaling, and change it to core provided, and it will fill the screen again, as you can see. I might want to save that configuration that we just done. Oh, not that one. It's in the main menu one. Yep, this one. It should hopefully save. If you just press the save, it should hopefully save over, and that should be defaulted every time we go in. Hopefully. Oh, any name does. Why does it need my name? Pointless. Again, love the little bezels at the side, they're really quite cool. I'll be honest, I did have the original Sonic Advance, but can't remember Sonic Advance 2. Might have had it, might have not, it's so long ago I can't remember. Oh, I might have, I can't remember. I guess if Sonic was on something back in the day, I would have probably bought it. Absolutely love Sonic. Woohoo! Probably not really the best versions of Sonic, I guess, but still hard to play it, don't you? Oh. Highly addictive little games, aren't they? They're fantastic. And the emulation is quite good as well, I think. Terrific. Okay, you kind of get the point, yeah. I guess this video could go on for hours, the amount of games that are here, but I'm trying really just to pick certain ones that sort of stand out. Game Boy Color, just really Game Boy Color. There's a lot of excellent games here that you could play, but we'll move on to Sega Genesis. Let's try Streets of Rage 3. Again, I've not really came across many emulators that's played Sega Mega Drive or Sega Genesis games badly, so these games generally play quite well. Okay, Streets of Rage 3. Not sure if it's the best of the bunch of Streets of Rage, but it's still a very solid title. It was one of those ones that was quite sought after as well at the time. Now let's jump past the intro sequence. You see, I like how I've got the settings of the screen again to sharpen it. It does jump out at you, but you may prefer a different setting, but you don't particularly enjoy this. It's all obviously just a personal preference. You can see it sounds absolutely fine, plays fine. I guess any slowdown that's in this game would have been in the original anyway. It was one of these games that did struggle occasionally. But absolutely fantastic. I did like the sort of Streets of Rage series. Sort of that and Final Fight was probably my most favourite beat 'em ups. Whoa. Hey. Anyway, fantastic little game, and there's absolutely tons of Mega Drive games here that you could go through. As you can see, Mega Drive, tons. Does wonder how they actually can get away with putting all these games on here. But who's going to complain? Not me. I'm going to enjoy it. That's one of the reasons why I got this. the easiest way, I guess, to play a lot of these games. And television. There's tons of them. If you jump out to the main screen, there's 159 television games. I'm not sure how many there was. I don't think there was much more than that. So we have a quick bash at Astro Smash. Okay, there's going to be an upgraded version of this on the Intellivision Amico coming soon, and it looks actually really good. Not really sure about the Amico itself, but again, here's the sort of, it's the L2 button to bring up the little sort of controller, which you would normally use to sort of start the games. You just press the enter button and you're away. And see, it plays pretty well. Great little addictive game. It looks quite colourful too. And we never really had Intellivision in the UK. I honestly don't remember seeing it at all. It wasn't one that was commonplace, unlike the Atari. Which is a shame, because it's a really good platform. Some games seem to play better on the Intellivision. I'm going to explode, aren't I? Darn. Nice game anyway. Again, there's going to be an Intellivision collection coming on the Evercade very soon. This game will be one of them. So really looking forward to that. So MAME, more arcade stuff. And there's absolutely tons and tons of arcade stuff. What shall we pick to play? This is another reason why I got this, to play some of these games with ease. I mean, it's easy enough to download a MAME emulator on your PC and play the games, but it's sometimes a bit of a pain to set up, and there's no fun in it. Let's see, let's maybe pick up that. I like this game back in the day. There was obviously a select games you would always go into the arcade, and this would be one I would always at least have a shot. Use one of my 10p's just have a quick go and see how far I could get. And sometimes my dad would join in and help me, because it's a two-player game obviously. It's tricky, it's definitely tricky. It's one of these ones you definitely need to concentrate a lot. Best actually standing behind this is just hold down the button and let loose. Use your grenades. Loved it, absolutely love it. Again, I actually had the Commodore 64 version of this, and it was actually quite good. Surprisingly quite decent. You see, classic arcade stuff from the sort of early 90s. It might have been before that, but that's obviously when the time I remember playing it. What year is it? Oh, it's 1988, but yeah, I remember playing it in the arcades in the sort of early 90s. So again, we'll move... Oh, Sega Master System. So again, there are absolutely tons here. A very underrated game machine. I say this was probably more popular in the UK than the NES was. I'm not really sure why. I guess I think we were more into SNES, sort of Sega at the time rather than NES. I couldn't really afford the games for it, so there's no way I was going to have either. It was always cheap computer games we could only afford. It made more sense. So Alex Kidd, one of the renowned sort of Master System titles. And quite a cool little game too. So the games on the Master System were definitely colourful. I think maybe that's one of the things I remember over the NES. The NES games just had a lot of flickering issues, graphics and stuff, and just not quite as colourful. But yeah, okay, next. So there's another Sega Genesis folder, which I'm not really sure why there's actually two. I guess some of the ROMs are different types, which is why there's two folders, which we've seen in quite a lot of the emulators. Again, it's just all sort of usual games. I'm not really going to jump in and play that. You get the point. They actually run really well. MSX2. One of these ones I've never played much of, but let's have a bash. See, you see the Wonder Swan bezels at each side. It's because it uses the same sort of emulator core, which is why it's there. Again, this is showing the small screen again. We'll just go into the settings to change. So excellent little game. Graphically it's obviously a little bit dated, but it's still quite a fun game to play. Sort of strange, it's not like a scrolling screen, it sort of disappears and moves on. Kind of quite unusual to see, isn't it? I think you can, yeah, you can jump. I was going to wonder, you can actually jump down. Ah, I died. Cracking little game. Anyway, you get the point. It's very cool. Okay, here we come on to some of the big hitters, some of the game consoles that are a little bit trickier to actually emulate. So what I'd recommend, when I actually played this when I first got the console just to discover it, is to, if you go and press the select button and go to the advanced system options and make sure you choose this emulator here. I can't remember what it is. By default it's probably the top one, Libretto Mupin 64 Plus Next, and it doesn't actually work very well with a few of the games. For instance, it didn't work very well with F-Zero X, didn't work with Mario Kart 64 and Super Mario 64 either. But if you change it to the one I've just shown you there, the games work far better, and there's no issues at all. Like, let's have a quick bash at F-Zero X, which I think works quite well. Again, you may have some issues, some games work better than others, and like I showed you, change it to these cores and it should work a lot better. So I'm not sure why they wouldn't test this before actually sending the unit out and actually set it to the correct core that actually works. So it's a bit strange and frustrating. If you are not totally sure what you're doing, then you would just assume it doesn't work very well. Certainly, great little game. Oh, that's another point. As you can see now, I've got issues with the controller, which is another little bit that I need to perhaps show. Let's jump back into here again. Now, this is something that I picked up, especially with Nintendo 64 games, because obviously it had a rather peculiar controller, didn't it? So, if we go back into the game. So what we need to do is actually set the controller part of it. So if you jump back in here and go to controls, which is down here, and port 1 controls, I think, if I recall, change the analog to digital type and just put that as none. I think that should fix it, because by default it just didn't seem to work there. So if you change that, save the settings, and again, and hopefully it should actually fix the problem. Some of these things are just quite annoying, why they wouldn't have the sort of default set up correctly. Obviously the N64 did have that ridiculously crazy controller, which makes things a lot harder to emulate, especially if you think GoldenEye. GoldenEye was a kind of strangely peculiar game to play because of the controller. You can see now I can actually control the ship. Before I couldn't, now I can. If you just change that setting, you can use the left analog stick and it will control fine, just as if you have an N64 controller. It's definitely a little sort of bit of information worth noting for. So make sure you've got the right core selected and change the controller type as I've shown. And the game, I think, plays quite well. I can't really remember playing this game too much at the time, or being particularly good at it. These controls are quite sensitive on here. I'd recommend definitely getting your own controller, like a 8-bit controller, which I've got, and it definitely helps to play some of these games a lot better. Otherwise, I don't think this is the greatest design controller for some of these games. Some games you get away with it, but I reckon for Nintendo 64 you're going to struggle a little bit. You see the game does play particularly well. Emulates okay, you wouldn't really know it was emulation. Don't see any issues here. The only issue is how I play it, I guess, isn't it? Oh my, I'm making tough work of this, aren't I? Let's boost. Oh. Remember, boosting takes away your energy. Hey, fourth ain't bad. So, I think a lot of the N64 games are hit and miss, but if you change them to that core, I found that they actually all tend to work a heck of a lot better. So let's move on to Naomi. So this is a sort of arcade sort of game, which the games play alright. Nothing spectacular, but they play fine. Let's choose one. What one will we go for? This one-on-one beat 'em up. So guys, apologies, this is going to be an extra long video, but I don't think there's any... I don't want to do this little unit injustice by not playing all the games, or at least touching on some of these games. It just would be unfair. So as you play through them, you should remember some of the tidbits that I need to sort of show that it'll help people play the games better. I think I'll probably be making some future videos on this in a little bit more detail on certain games and emulators. Again, you can add your own games too, which I've already done. I'll show you. There's a couple of games I have added, not many, but I have added a couple of my own games. I have no idea what I just chose there. What am I doing? Okay, honestly, I'm just pressing random buttons. It doesn't matter, I just want to play the game. It seems to run quite well so far. See, I think these games are not the most difficult to emulate, but still seem to be quite good. I get confused with all these sort of Marvel versus Street Fighter versus superhero. I just get confused, there's so many of them. I am really not very good at this game at all. Fun little game though, it's quite cute, there's lots of different characters you can choose. Definitely game, guys, if you are looking into that and you're not sure, I would highly recommend it. It's probably not the easiest console to pick up in the UK. I got this from Amazon UK just by luck really, and this is the 256 gig version, and it comes with the 50,000 games. You can get 30,000 game version, 40,000 game version, and it varies on the price, and it will massively vary in the price depending where you go as well. You can pick it up from AliExpress, and it was probably about £60, whatever, and take the chance. And it may take about 8 weeks to get here, who knows. But I got mine, it was only from Amazon UK from a seller, and it cost me £120, and it came the next day, so I'd rather have done that than take the chance in some of the unknown sort of places. But it's up to you. I mean, there's not many places in the UK that sell it, maybe apart from on eBay or whatnot, but most of them are like Chinese sellers on these stores, so be careful what you're looking for and what you're just going to buy. So this is DS. I'm not going to really chuck into DS. It does play with sort of double screen, and I thought the emulation was kind of a poor. Again, one they probably need to sort of mess about with to get right. Neo Geo system. Let's see if we can pick up something here. Bust a move. Let's have a look at Bust a Move. How cool is that? I've never really had one of these systems at all in the UK. I don't really remember it being released here. I know it was big in Japan. But yeah, I think we definitely had this game in some way on lots of different systems. And that's so addictive. I mentioned this previously, what an addictive little game this is. A little tune as well. Terrific. Anyway, it was just a brief sort of game guide just to sort of show the game working. Obviously not really one that does the system justice, obviously. Neo Geo system. So let's try Metal Slug, shall we? We can't go wrong. Metal Slug is just terrific, isn't it? So many of them, they all look the same to me. You've got your Samurai Shodown, all these sort of Neo Geo games that are renowned on the system. Let's jump in. We'll just play Metal Slug 3. Let's try that one. And these are sort of arcade titles that use the final Burn Neo Geo core. I think it's really tough not to love enjoying playing these games. They're just outrageously crazy. They play well on these systems too. Absolutely fantastic fun. Oh, I was too close when I was a bit dumb. See, it plays pretty well, no massive issues. Again, most of these games play quite well. I don't think I've played anything that slows down too much. Sort of the easier games to emulate, I guess. Fantastic game. I suppose it's quite easy to tell this version apart from some of the other ones when you've got sea creatures attacking you. Absolute bonkers. I like the sound of that. Where are we going? Absolutely terrific. Now I suppose if anyone's watching from our Cade Blaze, let's get a cart with all these games on it. This would be fantastic. And these would work brilliant on the sort of handheld or the upcoming VS. Let's do it, guys. Come on. Let's get together with SNK and get this going. Outrageously stupid, but brilliant, eh? Anyway, those games are absolutely crazy. Okay, now, oh, NES. So we'll go back in and show there's 1,541 NES games, which is mind-boggling. You sort of scroll through, you can see all the Super Marios and stuff are here. Anything you can think of. I don't think it includes every single game that ever appeared on the console, but there's a lot. There's most of them. Again, if you have your own ROM, you can easily add, which I have done on this occasion. If you go to the top, I've added a game that's coming on the Evercade called Indie Heroes, and it's called Flea. So I've actually purchased this on a pack, and this is fantastic. So let's have a look at Flea. It's a great little platformer sort of style game. And it's great fun to play. Okay, you're a flea. Collect all the blood samples and navigate your way through the levels. Collect the blood for the Rifu fleas. I don't know. There is a kind of a plot going on, I guess. But generally, it's kind of like a puzzle platformy game to try and manipulate through the air without dying, which you'll do often. And it's all about trying to jump at the right time without dying, touching the spiky bits, and it's fun. Great little game. Looking forward to this one on Evercade. Anyway, let's move on. So there's absolute tons. I'm not going to play all of them. So moving on to the next one, there's Nintendo Hacks, which is, I don't know, there's lots of kind of crazy hacked games in here that are on the NES. I'll have a quick bash of this one. This is a kind of a Super Mario Sonic mashup, and it's actually quite hard, but it's kind of strange but funny. Someone's had fun making this, I guess. So it's like Sonic, but you're playing as Mario. But it's extremely hard. I've not got very far on it because it's too hard. But it's bizarre. It kind of makes you laugh. You can see it's obviously got that familiar NES style graphics, but in a Super Mario style, but it's Sonic. But it's very hard. It really is very hard. But quite cool nonetheless. That's one of the things I disliked about the NES is the insane flickering that goes on with the games. But actually there's so many cracking games on the NES. Oh, I'm going to die. The controls are a little bit sticky sometimes when you're playing. Oh my, this is a lot harder than Sonic or Super Mario. I feel as I'm going to die at any minute here. Yay! Well, absolutely bizarre. I don't know what else to say. So that's the Nintendo hack. So we got Neo Geo Pocket and the Pocket Color. And they work quite well. I mean, they're more or less just like. Oops, I jumped past there. What have I jumped massively there, didn't I? So, Neo Geo Pocket, they play well. It's just like playing the Game Boy or the sort of Game Boy Advance situation. Odyssey 2, I think this is one I actually struggled to play a little bit. I think it had some control issues. It did play, but it had some control issues. It's one I need to look in a little bit further. But the games do actually work. Open Beats, these are just really sort of Final Fight, Streets of Rage, sort of mock-up things, a bit like the Nintendo hacks. TurboGrafx, there are tons of games. Let's have a quick bash at one of my favourite ones is Parasol Stars. And this game bypassed me at the time. I knew it was sort of there, but I never really got a chance to play it at all. Always loved Rainbow Islands. And Bubble Bobble, of course. Great little game, isn't it? Terrific. Yeah, this sort of TurboGrafx was sort of quite an underrated machine. I think it sort of struggled against the sort of competition in Mega Drive and Super Nintendo, I guess. It was just maybe slightly underpowered in comparison. But they had some really good games. So it didn't really hit the UK very much, but I know it was a mild success in the sort of North America, but probably more a success in Japan. But in the UK, I honestly don't even remember it. I've only really discovered it in the last few years. It's a bit of a shame, but at least I can get to play all the games now, which I'll definitely be doing. I had a TurboGrafx Mini as well, so. But there's more games on here than there is on there. So this is the CD version. There's only 2 games, but there's far more CD games available than there. Pokemon Mini. I'm kind of not really going to play any of them. I'm not really sure what the point of putting these on here. Ports. Again, these are like original versions of this is Outrun. There's Cave Story, Diablo, Doom, Doom 2. And these are like original sort of ports of all these games. Prince of Persia, Quake, Rick Dangerous, and however you pronounce this game. Loads of E's. 3 W's? Down arrows? I have no idea. Let's just jump on Rick Dangerous. See, this has got a version on like Commodore 64, Amiga, all those. And it's a kind of a Indiana Jones style game. But it's fun. But wow, it's hard. I used to play this quite a lot. Never ever made a great progress on it, but it was always a fun little game to actually play. See, the ports, the sort of graphics aren't particularly amazing here. So I need to remember the controls. Oh, I keep dying. Oh, wait a minute. Can't remember the controls. Wait, hold on. I can't remember the controls. I know they're one of the buttons I should be able to actually unleash. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I've got it now. I'm going to kill myself, aren't I? So hold down the B button and push down and it lets go one of them, a bomb. Yeah, that's it. Got it. So if you've never experienced this game, have a spot. It's absolutely terrific. Frustrating though. You die a lot. Yeah. If the ports are okay, I'm not really sure I'm going to spend an awful lot of time in here. So, oh, here we go. So PSP games. As you see, there's not really a lot of them. There's a lot of the big hitter and harder emulated games are not here, which is kind of surprising. I guess they're not here deliberately because maybe they don't work so well. But I'm maybe tempted to maybe do a future video on how some of the harder emulated games run. Let's have a look at Loco Roco. Or Loco Roco? Loco Roco? I don't know. Did have a PSP at one point. I think it was like 2005 they were released. And it was a very impressive little machine. Still is actually. A lot of people still actually play the sort of PS Vita. Very tempting to pick one up. See the frame per second in the corner is sort of sticking at 60, which is quite good. Very interesting to see. I don't think this is a hard to emulate game right enough, but it's peculiar, isn't it? It's interesting it actually plays full screen. You don't have any bezels in this one. We've just really got these sort of black borders. This is one of the games that you had to actually sort of manoeuvre the screen. Don't ask me what's going on, I have no idea. Okay, sorry, let's jump past that. It was mesmerising. How peculiar. So you kind of used the sort of L1 and R1 button to manoeuvre the character across the screen and sort of move that way and get bigger. Okay. Oh yeah, right. Right. I love the tips. Help me jump. Isn't this a wonderfully crazy game? See, quite cool. It obviously emulates quite well. The frame rate is stuck at 60, which is great. Again, probably not the most hardest game to emulate. Very interesting to see how Ridge Racer runs, and sort of the God of War game. Ah, interesting. Isn't this a fun game? Oh, right. Love these cutesy, crazy little games. Oh, I can definitely see me playing this quite a lot more. What a crazy game! Anyway, guys, I better move on. I'll be here all day playing this one. See, some games I guess are going to play better than others, but I see for the best part, That plays fine. So that's PSP and PlayStation. Let's have a bash at Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, so I've played this game loads over the years. You see, it looks quite good, doesn't it? Plays quite well. Not a good start. I sort of noticed a little bit of slowdown when we play this, funny enough. Anyway, you can see it really plays quite well. Maybe something just to sort of note here is the unit does tend to overheat slightly. I mean, it's definitely quite warm feeling to it. So definitely something to keep an eye on if you're sort of extended play. I don't know whether the unit would start to slow down a little bit or you'd start to experience some issues. So that's quite warm feeling. But anyway, let's move on. Sega 32X. Now what game shall we test it on? Star Wars Arcade. It wasn't really renowned for lots of games. Let's try the virtual racing. Oh, wrong button. Actually, in the UK, we didn't really get an awful lot of Sega 32X games released here. I only really remember a handful, which generally surprised me when I discovered later in years there was actually quite a lot of games released, especially in sort of North America. I had this game. I had the Star Wars game and I had Doom. They were the only 3 games I ever actually owned. And I don't recall seeing that many more games. You see, this seems to play quite well. Yep, it looks good. I quite like this game back in the day, but it's quite a hard game. It kind of played a bit like an arcade game. It did get released on the Mega Drive as well, but it was an extremely expensive game to own. I'm really not covering myself in glory at all here. So this plays really well. Again, it's definitely a tricky little game. I mean, looking at the graphics here, this is pretty much how it looked. They're probably not as sharp as I've got it here, but it definitely looked like this. And so don't worry about all the pop-up stuff, this is how it was back in the day. This is not the emulator, this is just how it was. Okay. So I don't think we've got too many more to go. Sega CD. We've got a couple of games here and they play fine as well. I think we'll maybe quickly bash into Sonic CD. I'm not sure what version this is, but I'm not sure why there's not more Sega CD games here. I'm surprised I don't see Snatcher, for instance, but I suppose I can add that myself. Probably not a difficult game to emulate, it's just a bit of a picky one to go. Sonic CD can be, I've seen it play quite slowly on some emulators. Oh, it seems to actually be playing quite well. Don't really recognise the music, funny enough. Kind of wonder if this is a slightly different version to the one I normally would play. Maybe I'm just imagining it. It seems fine though, it plays fine. Alright, let's move on. Sort of wary that our video's going to go on forever here. SG1000. Interesting. I've not really tried this one out, so I'm not really sure how it works. Which game to choose. This is obviously pre sort of Master System days, but let me see. Wow, I honestly don't remember this. If this got released outside of Japan or what, I really don't know. Impressive with Sega Galaga. Let's have a try at Sega Galaga. I'm not sure if we'll need an onboard keyboard to help here, maybe. Oh no, it's plain. It's actually quite good. It's got the correct sounds and the music. Stuff's just lacking a little bit of detail and colour, and as some of the other versions have, but this is still very playable, quite good fun. Oh dear. This is quite impressive. Eh? Wow. Thing is, I think if you've got an SG1000 in some of these games, they'd be worth a fortune these days, surely. It's not something you see very often. Anyway. Okay, what's next? So, oh, Super Nintendo. Again, there's absolutely tons. All these games play fine. What shall we try? F-Zero? Why not? Let's have a bash at F-Zero. So the mind boggles the amount of games that are on this little box. I say I'd definitely recommend taking a backup of the games, or sort of transfer them onto a better memory card. Just in case, I'd be soul destroying to try and lose all of the games on here. This looks really nice, doesn't it? Very colourful. Oh. Try to cheat. Doesn't actually work cutting, does it? The controls are just a little bit too sensitive. See, it's probably better definitely getting yourself a decent controller rather than using the one that's out the box. It's just passable at best, I think. Anyway, pretty good. You can see I've come across very few problems in all the games that I've played so far. So far I think this box is massively impressing me. TurboGrafx. It's just kind of TurboGrafx style games. Vectrex, I've played a couple of these and it's kind of tricky. I played this one, Hyperchase, and the controls are just oversensitive to be able to be playable. So I need a little bit more time on that. Virtual Boy. Now these games work fine, but I'm not really sure why you've included them on here. Obviously weren't really meant to be played on a TV. But yeah, they do work. Let's see, what one was I playing? Was it that one? Mario's Tennis? I don't know. They just look bizarre, you know, the fact that it's so sort of red. Again, it would be great to be able to have a Virtual Boy. They would be worth a fortune. I don't really recall they were, again, released outside Japan. Kind of one of these first sort of VR machines that just didn't really take off. I'm kind of wondering why it was, maybe just the technology, why it was always red. You can see they work quite well. It takes up the full screen apart from your obvious bezels. Don't like them, you can get rid of them. See, it looks alright, plays alright. I'll be honest, don't really know what I'm doing. But I think the only purpose here is just to show you they actually do run. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on here. Some things you really think, why? I'm not sure how many people would be interested in playing some of these things. Wonder Swan, I really need to spend more time on Wonder Swan. There's loads of games there, same with the colour version. And they look really nice. I've not played many of them, so but they do run too. Sharp X6800. Again, this looks like a very Japanese sort of style thing. Again, they work fine too. You just need to manipulate some of the onboard keyboards. Spectrum games. Now this is one you definitely need the onboard keyboard quite a lot, which is, it's annoying, but you can get around it. It's just a bit of a pain. The games do tend to run quickly. You just need to know how to utilise the keyboard. So Manic Miner, obviously quite a known Spectrum game. But again, this is one of the ones you have to manipulate the keyboard. I've just pressed L2 and it seems to work fine. So again, you press the select button to manipulate the keyboard here, and you could choose the sort of key that you need. So some of the button mapping's a little bit off, I think. So it's one of the ones you probably need to spend some time manipulating the sort of keyboard, sort of in the controls and sort of mess about with that. But you see, it works fine. I think I've come across a few games that the sort of button mapping don't work. And I guess there's the N64 games and some of the Spectrum games are the same. But you can obviously fix that. It's no big problem. The games do actually work. It's just a matter of going into the RetroArch backend and fixing the controls. You can also make games your favourites by holding down the X button, and then that would make it, put a star next to it and put it into the favourites box here. You can see all the favourites tend to go to the top to make it easier to actually get the game quicker. And that's us. I think we may have missed some games, did we? What did we miss? Or is that? Yeah, so we missed a couple back at the start here. Did we do Commodore 64? No, we didn't. So we missed a couple. We done Atomiswave, then we jumped and we went to Final Nail Burn. So let's do Dreamcast first. So the last two that we're going to look at, and then we'll finish the video. I'm very aware it's also been a really long video, guys. I don't generally like to make them this long, but I don't think there's any way about it without doing this little box any justice at all. So for the best part, I've found that the games run quite well. Some Sonic Adventure, it runs well enough. Soul Calibur runs okay, but it has the sort of annoying flickering, which I'll show you. It has the sort of annoying flickering that I last seen on the Retroid Pocket 2, which I'm not really sure why, because this should be able to play this okay. I've seen it playing sort of lesser handhelds and it plays absolutely fine. So it could be well down to the sort of emulation station perhaps, or the emulate. Could be that. That could be why, but I don't know. I've seen it working well on Batocera and Arcos. You can see there's this annoying flicking here, which I don't understand why it's there and how to actually fix it. But the game actually plays alright apart from that. Just a little bit slowed down with the music here and there a little bit, but it's definitely playable. So I don't know whether there's some changes we can make to actually make it better. I'll need to investigate that and see what happens. But just to give you a quick idea, unfortunately there is some flickering on that one. Sonic 2 is pretty much the same. It works well with some slowdown here and there. All the other games seem okay too. Interestingly, there's not really a lot of games on here. Well, let's have I think Crazy Taxi worked absolutely fine. Again, in general, I think most of the games play really well. Metropolis Street Racer, for example, that plays exceptionally well on here. I'll maybe show that next. Surprisingly plays really well, and sort of one of the best games I've seen, which is crazy. Consider some games are not playing great. I'll need to maybe try Dead or Alive 2, so that one usually is massive slowdown. Right, pressing the wrong button. Sounds okay so far, doesn't it? There's no noticeable slowdown. Yeah, Dead or Alive 2 actually plays alright, just the same sort of idea, a bit of slowdown. Metropolis Street Racers plays really well. I guess we'll leave that for another video. We'll maybe jump to the last one, Commodore 64. Now this one, the game play great. Again, just take a little bit of time to load in, which I'll sort of show. I've got this game, which is a game I've added myself, and this is a really, really cool, impressive game. So it usually kicks up with the loading screen. Things look nice and sharp, so I've changed the sort of shaders. And some games take longer than others. I don't think they take as long as they normally would if you were playing them on the tape or disc, but they do take maybe a minute or two to actually load, so be wary of that when you're actually loading. But the games, when loaded, they play fantastically well. So here we are. It only takes a minute or two to actually load. So I only picked this game up fairly recently, and it's really impressive for a Commodore 64 game. If you've not picked this up yet, have a look at it. I think it only cost a couple of quid. It's well worth it. It's a fantastic little game. Quite impressive, some of the sort of style that's used. Oops, don't want to die there. So you get the power to sort of switch between this and the other version, and there's benefits of both versions. Also, this one you can jump higher and farther, whereas if you had the other style, I can't remember what it is now. You can jump higher or jump longer, I don't know. So this gives you the power. You've got a power bar at the bottom. You can see sort of the different styles in the graphics when you press the button. And there's different options. You can see some things appear. There's ladders appear in one, not this style. Oh, and then you die quite easily. So I've got the green key. I can go through there. You can see if you press the button here, this disappears, and you can access a secret sort of stage, which is massively cool. This is just a great idea. For a Commodore 64 game, I'm absolutely blown away, to be honest. But it's quite a hard game though. But very good. Again, you can press the select to access the onboard sort of keyboard. Let's have a look at one of my all-time favourite Commodore 64 games, Creatures. Okay, now a little tip for the Commodore 64. You see there's the options here to put unlimited lives and all sorts. Obviously it's been hacked. But if you hold down the select button, you can access the keyboard, but you see there's no option there for all the function buttons. So what you need to do is press, oh wait a minute, what button is it? Nope, not that one. There is an auto button here that you choose the other functions that are there. Yeah, so it's these buttons here. SL sort of switches between the different function buttons. So we want to play creatures, we want F8. And that'll kick in the sort of loading thing. It's definitely something you need to utilise, I guess, in all these sort of home computers. Is sometimes some of the games require you to hit the space bar, for example, or hit the F12 button, hit the Commodore button, something like that, and it's just something to be wary of. The games are not broken, you just need to, you know, it's that emulation that doesn't know that you've not got a keyboard sitting there. So, something to be aware of. I guess this doesn't take as long as it normally would to load in, even though you've got your traditional loading screen here for creatures. So guys, if you've enjoyed watching this video, please consider subscribing, liking the video. Apologies, it's quite a long video, but I guess I just wanted to do this little box justice because I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's obviously easier to play some of the games rather than try to create the ROMs and fill them up yourself, find the BIOSes and create it. Although it can be quite fun to do that. If you're looking for something just out the box that plays easy with very little effort, this is the one for you, and I'm absolutely blown away. So most of the games run exceptionally well. They're sort of tougher to emulate systems like Dreamcast and PSP. Obviously you have some issues here and there, and then 64, but in general the games play fine. I never really bought it to actually play those games. I bought it just for the overall variety and experience and be able to play maybe Amiga games, Commodore games, just things I've never played before that I could experience at all the arcade titles. But yeah, I'm absolutely loving it. It's massively impressive. I'll leave a link in the description of where to buy it from if you're interested. Again, thanks for watching guys, and we'll catch you again next time. Oh, I absolutely love this game. One of these games I could never tire of playing. Clyde Radcliffe. Quite a tricky game, right enough. It was a lot harder when we had the joystick rather than the joypad, that's for sure. Anyway guys, see you later. Thanks for watching.